I will be discussing the mysteries surrounding a unit circle and why is it important in trigonometry. So this is the graph of a unit circle, and as you can see, the measure of the radius is equivalent to 1. Now all of these points surrounding this circle will satisfy the condition of the circle, and all of these points will give you the values of cosine and sine without using calculator, and so uh, provided that the circle is a unit circle, because if it's a different circle, of course the values will increase depending upon the ratio of proportionality. Now the value of cosine here is negative 0.87 and the value of sine here is 0.493. You shouldn't get lost because alphabetically speaking, cosine and x comes first before sine and y. So therefore, the cosine here is negative 0.87 and the sine here is 0.493. Now, you don't know the angle here because this is analytically speaking. If you would like to find the angle surrounding the unit circle, you need to put this in the polar coordinate form. Now, make sure that your mode is in radian, and you will just have to click this figure, and this will be now in the polar form. Now notice that in our unit circle, the value of cosine pi over 6 is the square root of 3 over 2, and the value of sine pi over 6 is equivalent to 1/2. Now remember that pi over 6 is the same as 30 degrees because pi is 180 degrees and 180 divided by 6 is equivalent to 30 degrees. So therefore, if I'm going to dot that point, that's square root of 3, it should hit my unit circle at this point. Okay, and notice that it's here. And the decimal value of square root of 3 over 2 is 0.866 and 1/2 is 0.5. Now notice that it hits it at the unit circle but not here. Now remember, the angle will be the same whatever is your radius. Whether you prolong the radius, the angle remains the same. From the x-axis, it's 30 degrees or pi over 6. If you would like to find those points here, what you can do is to express this in the polar form. So, the x value is supposed to be equivalent to r cosine theta. Theta is a measure of an angle, and the y value is equivalent to r sine theta. Okay, so therefore, if I'm going to find the points here, what I can do is to put this in the coordinate form. Radius is 6 because the radius here is 6. So that would be 6 cosine because the x function is cosine. That's pi over 6, pi divided by 6. And then your sine is 6 sine function sine pi over 6. Pi divided by 6. You would see it's going to dot it here because this represents a radius of 6. This represents a radius of 1. Now, if you want, you can also put cosine pi over 6 so that it is gonna dot it here. So you have cosine pi over 6. This means radius of 1. And then sine pi over 6. And you would notice that it's going to block the red graph because it's the same as a square root of 3 over 2. That's the value of our cosine function pi over 6, 0.866, and the value of sine pi over 6 is 0.5. Now, your calculator will always reduce it to your functions will always be reduced to a unit circle. If you're going to press this in your calculator, cosine pi over 6, as long as your radian is mode, your mode is radian, sorry for that, it will give you a value of 0.866 and a value of 0.5 for cosine pi over 6 and sine pi over 6. But if you're going to, of course, press this in the calculator, it's gonna go here at 5.196 and 3. So you would notice that the value of your x and y here are 6 times as much as the value of your x and y in the unit circle.